My husband told me he was liquidating our entire life savings over brunch. Right between the avocado toast and the second mimosa. Like he was announcing he'd finally organized the garage. So, I pulled the trigger. Mark said, tapping a smear of hollandaise from his phone screen with that reckless optimism he always mistook for confidence. I signed the papers. We're seed investors in a new wellness startup. He beamed at me, expecting applause. He didn't notice the ice forming in my veins. Asterisk. We times weren't investing in anything. He had just detonated our future. I offered him a tight, brittle smile that felt like it might crack my face. Wow. Mark? That's bold. My voice was a stranger's, thin and high. I raised my glass. The condensation cold against my fingertips. To new ventures. He clinked his against mine. The sound unnaturally loud in the cheerful din of the restaurant. He was so oblivious. So wrapped up in his own grand vision. He couldn't see the abyss that had just opened between us. I finished my drink in 2 long swallows, the cold liquid doing nothing to cool the fire raging in my gut. The burn was a clarifying force. I'm just going to the restroom, I said, placing my napkin on the table with deliberate care. Each movement felt slow. Precise. Like I was moving through water. Inside the blessedly quiet, white-tiled stall, my hands weren't shaking. They were perfectly, unnaturally steady. I pulled out my phone, my thumb hovering over the banking app I'd installed weeks ago. A little seed of paranoia I had tried to ignore. No more. I opened it. My password entered with robotic precision. There was our joint savings account. $162,000. The last of the inheritance from my grandmother, a fiercely practical woman who had warned me about charming men with flimsy dreams. With 3 taps, I initiated the transfer. Every penny flowed from that vulnerable joint account into the private one I had named. With a grim sense of irony. The Nightingale Fund. A notification popped up. Transfer complete. It was done. I took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of bleach and cheap air freshener. And felt nothing. Just the vust. Cold, calm. I looked at my reflection in the chrome handle of the stall door. The woman looking back had harder eyes than the one who had walked in. I walked back to the table, pulled a few bills from my purse to cover the check, and leaned down to kiss my husband on the cheek. His skin was warm. He smelled like expensive cologne and betrayal. You go celebrate, I said, my voice smooth as glass. I have some errands to run. I didn't go home. I drove straight to my sister's house. The city streets blurring into a meaningless watercolor of steel and light. He did what Chloe said, shoving a glass of wine into my hand, so forcefully it sloshed onto my fingers. We were in her kitchen. A chaotic but safe harbor I'd sailed to more times than I could count over the years. Her ancient cat, Odysseus, rubbed against my ankles. A rumbling anchor in the storm. A wellness startup, Lillian. What does he know about wellness? His idea of a vegetable is the olive in his martini. It's not even about the startup. Chloe, I said, my voice finally cracking. The calm facade shattering into a million pieces. The tears I hadn't shed in the restaurant came hot and fast. It's the pattern. It's always been my money. My safety net. My grandmother's legacy. I began to pace her worn linoleum floor. A caged animal, finally let loose. Remember last year? When he lost $20,000 day trading, he called it a market correction. It was my inheritance that patched the hole. And the year before that, when he decided he was going to be an entrepreneurial consultant and didn't land a single client for 6 months, my money covered the mortgage, the groceries, everything. He just smiled and said, "You gotta spend money to make money." Babe? I threw my hands up in exasperation. Every single time I questioned him. Every time I asked to see a business plan or a spreadsheet, I was being negative. I was stifling his ambition. He'd look at me with those big, hopeful puppy dog eyes and make me feel like I was this crazy, paranoid shrew for wanting a safety net, for wanting to know our future wasn't built on a foundation of sand and his latest whim. I stopped pacing and looked at my sister, my voice dropping to a raw whisper. He knew that was the last of it, the absolute bottom of the well, and he drained it over brunch. He didn't just spend the money. Chloe. He spent my trust. He spent the last 8 years. All of it. Chloe wrapped her arms around me. Her embrace, fierce. I never liked him. She muttered into my hair. He was always too smooth. All shine and no substance. You did the right thing. Lil. You took it back. It was always yours anyway. For the first time all day, I believed it. Mark's confusion began around dinner time. Just as Chloe was plating some emergency spaghetti, my phone, sitting face up on the counter, buzzed. A text times, "Hey, where are you?" Getting worried. Asterisk. I ignored it. An hour later, as we were washing dishes, times, Lillian. My card was just declined at the grocery store. Weird. Who? Bank glitch mal, Chloe snorted. Bank glitch. My ass. Then, the real panic set in. His calls started coming one after another. A frantic staccato of rings and buzzes. I let them all go to voicemail. The first was laced with a syrupy, fake concern. Hey Lil. It's me. Just worried about you. Call me back. Okay. The next was tight with irritation. Lil. Call me. The savings account is empty. I mean, it says 0. We've been hacked or something. You need to call the bank right now. The third was pure, unadulterated rage. Lillian. What the hell did you do? You answer your phone right now. When I didn't answer, he showed up at Chloe's house just after 9 o'clock. He didn't knock. He hammered on the door. The sound echoing through the small house. Lillian, I know you're in there. Open the door. Odysseus hissed and shot under the sofa. Chloe stood beside me. Her arms crossed. Her expression, stony. You don't have to talk to him. She whispered. His pleading turned theatrical and ugly. Lil. What the hell is going on? Did you do this? Are you having one of your anxious spells again? Just open the door and we can talk this through. He was playing to an imaginary audience, painting himself as the concerned husband dealing with his unstable wife. The gaslighting was so reflexive, he probably didn't even know he was doing it. Then his voice shifted again, sharpening into a snarl. That's my money. 2. You thief our money. You can't just steal from me. You open this door right now or I'll break it down. I looked at Chloe. My own anger. A cold, hard stone in my chest. His money. He hasn't contributed a single dime to that account in 5 years. Not one. I walked to the door and called through the wood. My voice steady. Go home. Mark, we have nothing to talk about. For a moment, there was silence. Then, a string of curses. The sound of him kicking the door. And finally, the roar of his car peeling away down the street. The quiet he left behind felt like peace. The next morning, I was sitting in the leather and mahogany office of Eleanor Albright, a divorce attorney with a reputation for being a shark in a silk blouse. Her office, on the 34th floor of a downtown skyscraper, overlooked the entire city. And she carried herself with the calm authority of someone who owned the view. I explained everything: the startup, the brunch, the long, draining pattern of financial recklessness, the gaslighting that made me question my own sanity. When I told her about transferring the inheritance out of the joint account, a slow, appreciative smile spread across her face. Good? She said, her voice a low, confident, pure. That was decisive. It protects the asset while we sort this out. You moved from defense to offense. I like that. She steepled her long, manicured fingers. I need you to understand. Lillian, your husband's behavior isn't just boyish enthusiasm. A man who detonates his family's finances for a whim isn't a dreamer. He's an arsonist. I felt a wave of relief, so profound it almost made me dizzy. For the first time, a person in a position of authority wasn't telling me I was overreacting. However, she continued, her eyes sharpening, in my 20 years of practice, I've found that financially reckless men are usually hiding one of two things, a secret addiction or a secret woman. Sometimes both. His story about a wellness startup feels flimsy. Too generic. I want to hire a forensic accountant. A man I use. Mr. Davies. He's a bloodhound with a calculator. Let's not just follow the money you saved. Let's see where all the other money has actually been going. A part of me recoiled. A secret woman. It seemed too dramatic. Too much like a movie. Mark was foolish and selfish. Yes. But he wasn't a monster. Was he? I don't know. I stammered. He's never given me a reason to think he's cheating. Ms. Albright gave me a look that was both kind and pitying. They rarely do. She said softly. That's what makes them good at it. Let's just do our due diligence. It's better to know the full truth now than to be surprised by it in court. I nodded, feeling a new, colder dread creep into my veins. 2 weeks later, Ms. Albright called me for an emergency meeting. Her voice on the phone was stripped of its usual warmth, leaving only cold. Professional urgency. The forensic accountant. A quiet, meticulously dressed man named Mr. Davies. I was already there when I arrived, sitting beside a thick file on the polished conference table. Ms. Hayes, he began, forgoing any pleasantries. Your husband secured 2 business loans over the past year, totaling $95,000. I felt the blood drain from my face. The room seemed to tilt slightly. What? That's impossible. His credit is terrible. He couldn't get a credit card at a department store. Ms. Albright slid a document across the table. It was a loan application from a prominent online lender. At the bottom, next to Mark's familiar, looping signature, was mine, or a version of it. A clumsy, but passible forgery. My stomach lurched. He had stolen my name, my reputation, my financial identity. He used your good credit score and your forged signature as a cosigner to secure the funds, she said, her voice like chips of ice. Mr. Davies cleared his throat, drawing my attention back to him. But that's not the worst of it, he said, his tone grim. We expected to find that the loan money was sent to a corporate account for this alleged startup. It wasn't. He opened his file, revealing pages of spreadsheets and bank statements. There are no payments to web developers, no invoices for inventory or suppliers, no charges for legal incorporation. As far as we can tell, Lillian, the wellness startup does not exist in any form. It is a complete fabrication. Then, where did the money go? I whispered. My hands clenched in my lap. Mr. Davies pointed a perfectly manicured finger at a highlighted column on the spreadsheet. The $95,000 was dispersed directly into a personal checking account in Mark's name. From there, the money has been going to 3 places, in a consistent monthly pattern. First, rent payments of $3,000 a month for a luxury apartment in the city center. An apartment you've never lived in. Second, lease payments for a new Lexus. A car you've never seen. And third, he paused, his eyes meeting mine. Regular, weekly cash transfers to one individual, a woman named Claire Jensen. The name meant nothing to me. Yet, it felt like it had been branded onto my soul. The affair wasn't just a betrayal. It was a business. And I was the unwilling, unknowing investor. We arranged the meeting at Ms. Syant Albright's office. Mark strode in. His face a mask of arrogant indignation. A cheap, nervous-looking lawyer, trailing in his wake like a pilot fish. He clearly thought this was his arena. That he had me cornered by my irrational behavior? Lillian. He started, his voice dripping with condescension before he even sat down. I'm willing to be reasonable if you'll stop this ridiculous stunt and return the money you stole. Sit down. Mark. Ms. Albright. Cut in. Her voice slicing through his monologue. She nodded to me. My heart was pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. But my voice, when it came, was pure ice. I slid the first file across the vast mahogany table. It landed with a soft, definitive thud. This is a loan agreement for $50,000 with my forged signature on it, I said. His face, which had been flushed with righteous anger, went pale. His lawyer leaned over to look, his eyes widening slightly. I pushed a second file forward. And this is the lease agreement for the secret apartment you guaranteed with my forged signature. Mark's mouth opened, but no sound came out. His lawyer started shuffling his own papers, suddenly looking very out of his depth. I slid the third file across the table. And these, I said, my voice gaining strength with each word, are the bank statements showing you draining those loan accounts to pay for jewelry from Tiffany's Plakens 8. Vacations to Cabo, and weekly cash payments to Claire Jensen. He stared at me, his mouth opening and closing like a fish pulled from water. You can't, he stammered, looking wildly between me and his lawyer, as if searching for an escape route. But I think my favorite is this, I said, my voice dropping to a near whisper. I slid a single, glossy photograph to the center of the table. It wasn't in a file. It was just there. Exposed and undeniable. It was a picture of him and a smiling, brunette woman, laughing on a sun-drenched beach, their arms wrapped around each other. Claire Jensen posted this 2 weeks ago on her private social media. It was surprisingly easy to get access to. The caption reads, "1 year with my love. So grateful for our future." I leaned forward, making sure he could see the utter absence of pain in my eyes. Only power. It's bank fraud. Mark. Forgery. Wire fraud. Those are federal crimes. But I think what a judge will find most interesting is the motive. You didn't just steal money because you were reckless. You orchestrated a complex, long-term criminal enterprise to fund a double life. You built an entire life on my back. The room was silent. Mark looked broken, shrunken, in his chair. Ms. Albright took over, her voice crisp and final. Here is the deal, she said. You will sign this divorce settlement. Lillian retains her full inheritance. 100% of it. You assume 100% of the liability for these fraudulent loans and all other marital debt. You will walk away with your car and your clothes. You sign this document now. And this file of evidence stays in this office. You refuse, or even hesitate, and a copy goes to the district attorney's office this afternoon. Your choice. Mark signed everything. The bravado, the charm, the reckless optimism. It all evaporated under the harsh fluorescent lights of the conference room, leaving behind the small, terrified, hollow man he'd always been. He didn't look at me once. He just signed his name, his hand trembling, and walked out of my life forever. A year later, I stood on a small stage in a beautifully restored community hall, the late afternoon sun streaming through the arched windows. The divorce was a quiet, distant memory. I'd heard through the grapevine that Mark had declared bankruptcy. The banks had come after him for the fraudulent loans. And Claire Jensen, upon discovering the source of her lavish lifestyle, had promptly sued him and disappeared. I felt no satisfaction in his failure. No vengeful glee. I only felt a profound and final sense of release. Taking back my money had been the first step. Taking back my life was the victory. My grandmother, whose name was Florence, was a force of nature. I said into the microphone, my voice clear and strong, resonating in the packed room. But her friends called her Nightingale because she had a habit of singing when she worked. She believed that a woman's financial independence was her freedom. In her honor, and with the inheritance she left me, I am so proud to launch the Nightingale Fund. I held up the first ceremonial check, a piece of paper that represented so much more than money. We will provide micro-investments, seed money, support, and mentorship for women, starting over after escaping situations of financial and domestic abuse. My eyes scanned the crowd of supporters, friends, and local businesswomen, and met the gaze of the fund's first recipient. She was a young woman with a nervous but hopeful smile and bruises on her soul that I recognized all too well. In her eyes, I saw my own story. The fear, the betrayal, but also the flicker of unbreakable, incandescent strength. I smiled back at her. A genuine, warm smile that reached my eyes. Mark had tried to detonate my future for his own selfish gain. Instead, he had only succeeded in igniting it. I was safe. I was free. And I was just getting started. What would you have done in Lillian's shoes? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, be sure to follow for more.